Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon. Yellowstone never knew what to do with summer. Piper Perabo had all the right stuff to fit into the cutthroat world of Yellowstone as Summer Higgins. An environmentalist and vegan faced to confront a more brutal environment dominated by cowboys, she eventually became a main love interest for Kevin Costner's character, John Dutton. As a recurring presence throughout Season 4 and Season 5, Perabo's summer added an intriguing jolt of different energy to the series, despite creator Taylor Sheridan never being quite sure what to do with her. In a series where Kelly Reilly's Beth Dutton served as the primary female lead within a cast of predominantly male characters, Perabo's arrival as Summer was a welcome change and seemed to foreshadow that she'd be taking on a bigger role in the back half of the series. Unfortunately, she didn't. Even her dramatic feud with Beth, which began when Summer started a relationship with John Dutton, went nowhere, as Sheridan instead allowed Summer to fade into the background and eventually depart the show altogether in its 5th season. Summer could have elevated the stakes of Yellowstone after John Dutton's death. Summer Higgins is a firecracker from the first moment she's introduced in Yellowstone, meeting John Dutton at an animal rights protest downtown, while handcuffed, no less. As she proclaims that her body is her protest, Perabo expertly delivers Sheridan's biting dialogue and has great chemistry with Costner. But her story had nowhere to go but downhill from then on. The way her narrative plays out, primarily focusing on her romance with John and the conflict with Beth that results, is borderline immature. Some of Sheridan's weakest writing happens in Beth and Summer's first meeting, which sets the stage for Summer's treatment on the show, largely devoted to a childish rivalry. Dislike between the women first blooms when Beth first encounters Summer in the Yellowstone's kitchen, while she's wearing nothing but John Dutton's shirt. Beth immediately picks up a knife with the intent of stabbing Summer, already hurling insults at the other woman in the process. It's a bonkers move, even for the hot-headed Dutton daughter, and a disappointing regression for these two female characters in a television era filled with rich, complex women. This first encounter sets the tone for Perabo and her character for the rest of her time on Yellowstone. Summer and Beth's feud was a tired trope on Yellowstone. Everyone remembers one of the most talked-about moments from Yellowstone, which has now become a big part of its legacy. Season 5, Episode 5, Watch 'Em Right Away, features a now infamous catfight between Beth and Summer. It's Perabo's biggest moment on the show, but it also cements a tired trope of pitting woman against woman. After their conversation over dinner escalates, the two resort to fighting on the front lawn outside the Dutton home, exchanging punch after punch until Rip Colhauser intervenes. Throwing offensive insults at each other with too many swears to count, Beth and Summer's fight does not move any plot forward, nor hold much substance besides the shock factor. It exemplifies the dangerous pitfall Sheridan fell into with Summer, and his often shallow writing of women in a largely male-dominated series. Beth and Summer's feud was only one of the moments that showed the cracks in Yellowstone overall, as well as the limitations of the show's writing in depicting a complicated relationship between two women. It makes sense, then, that when John Dutton dies at the start of Season 5 Part 2, Summer all of a sudden had no purpose in the series. As someone who had essentially been defined by her relationship with him, rather than any intelligence or resourcefulness, she can do nothing other than make a quick exit. Her last scene on Yellowstone is brief, with not much sentimentality to spare. In Season 5, Episode 10, when Beth finds Summer at the ranch, she says, "I forgot all about you." In that moment, she could almost be speaking for the writers, or the audience for that matter. Their final exchange is another sling of insults in which each of them gets a chance to spew some nasty parting words. As Beth gives Summer a ride to the stables, and effectively out of her life forever, the scene includes a fantastic line delivery from Perabo, as Summer states, "I hope you dedicated your body to science, so they can study what a asterisk chit you are. It's a strong jab, but it's a mostly disappointing moment, especially since a thoughtful actor like Parabo is reduced to another, albeit verbal, catfight in her last few moments on the show. Ultimately, Summer's storyline was a missed opportunity for Yellowstone, as well as proof that Sheridan's series could never fully figure out what to do with female leads if their name wasn't Beth Dutton. Yellowstone National Park, a crown jewel of America's natural heritage, has long been synonymous with rugged landscapes, untamed wildlife, and the enchanting dance of seasonal changes. Yet, among its many splendors, there is a curious truth that lingers in the minds of those who truly know the park. Yellowstone has never quite known what to do with summer. Winter blankets the park in a silence as deep and profound as its snowdrifts. Tourists brave enough to visit find themselves entranced by geysers steaming against frosty backdrops and wolves prowling through pristine white. Spring, on the other hand, is a time of rebirth, a triumphant celebration of life as grizzly bears emerge from hibernation. Bison cows wobble on newborn legs, and wildflowers begin their riotous bloom. Fall, with its crisp air and golden hues, transforms the park into a painter's dreamscape, a serene farewell to warmth as the elk bugle their haunting calls. But summer in Yellowstone is chaos, a cacophony of traffic jams, human voices, and a clash between the natural and the contrived. It's a season the park struggles to define, a time when its wild soul seems at odds with the throngs that descend upon it. The Great Influx. Every summer, Yellowstone's entrances become bottlenecks for eager visitors. Cars stretch in lines that rival the great herds of bison on the Lamar Valley plains. Families spill out onto boardwalks, armed with cameras, maps, and snacks, their laughter mingling with the distant howl of a coyote. For many, this is their first encounter with wilderness, a carefully curated taste of untamed beauty. The park's infrastructure groans under the weight of its popularity. Campgrounds fill to capacity, while hotels and lodges boast no vacancy signs by late morning. Rangers, those patient stewards of the land, transform into traffic controllers and safety lecturers. The geysers and hot springs, marvels of geothermal wonder, often play unwitting hosts to reckless behavior. Each summer brings new tales of people venturing too close to wildlife or stepping off paths into fragile ecosystems, drawn by the lure of the perfect Instagram shot. Yet, amid the noise and crowds, Yellowstone's essence persists. The thunderous roar of the lower falls continues to echo through the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone. The delicate dance of fireflies above quiet meadows offers brief respites from the chaos. The question remains, how can the park balance its unparalleled accessibility with its untamed spirit? A season without identity. Summer's struggle in Yellowstone lies in its lack of a clear identity. Unlike the stark contrasts of winter or the poetic transformations of spring and fall, summer is a patchwork quilt of experiences that sometimes feel at odds. It's a season that demands compromise between solitude and community, preservation and participation. The park's wildlife, so integral to its charm, navigates a summer landscape teeming with human activity. Bears and wolves retreat to quieter corners, while bison wander highways, unfazed by the spectacle of tourists snapping photos from the safety of their cars. The balance is delicate, and the consequences of disruption ripple through the ecosystem in ways both visible and unseen. Meanwhile, the park's geothermal features endure their own form of summer scrutiny. Old Faithful, the iconic geyser, performs its time-honored ritual to an audience of hundreds, if not thousands. Nearby, lesser-known hot springs and fumaroles offer quieter marvels for those willing to seek them out. Yet even here, the footprints of humanity are hard to ignore. Innovations and challenges. Recognizing the challenges of summer, Yellowstone has taken steps to adapt. Visitor education programs emphasize the importance of staying on trails, respecting wildlife, and leaving no trace, Shuttle systems aim to reduce traffic congestion, while reservation systems for certain attractions seek to preserve the experience for all. Technology has also played a role. Apps and online tools guide visitors to lesser-known areas, spreading out the crowds and encouraging exploration beyond the park's most famous landmarks. Yet these solutions often feel like band-aids on a larger wound. The fundamental question remains: how does a place like Yellowstone reconcile its duty to inspire and educate with the need to protect and preserve? The beauty of the overlooked. Perhaps the answer lies in celebrating the overlooked moments of summer. Beyond the popular geysers and bustling visitor centers, there are quarters of the park where tranquility reigns. The Beths region, known as Cascade Corner, offers stunning waterfalls and serene trails far from the madding crowds. The backcountry, accessible only to the intrepid, remains a haven for those seeking true solitude.